everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Jaden. If you're coming to this channel for the first time, you are welcome. Today guys, we're going to look at those things that make us come across as masculine. So a friend said to me that she got into trouble at work and it turned out she was relieved of her job because her line manager said she always comes across as really aggressive. And in fairness to this woman, she makes so much effort into not being that kind of a woman. She wants to be subtle, she wants to be feminine. You know, she told me she's always keen to improve on her self-image, which is one thing I preach all the time on this channel. I believe we should, as women, power through, not with physical strength. I believe we should try and engage with people, you know, be agreeable, and if anything, make more impression with our femininity, you know, not being too confrontational. And by no means, I'm not saying you should be a walkover, you know, or a doormat. You know, I've talked about that previously in my video. But as women, it's important we pay attention and focus on how we come across. This is why I always recommend we have moments of introspection. You know, have time to yourself when you reflect and run through your day. This is what I do. Sometimes I keep journals, some other times I don't keep up. But it's always helpful to have that time to yourself when you reflect and wind down the day by reflecting on how the day was, how, you know, your engagement and relationship with people. The whole idea is to see and think about how you come across, how others perceive you, and obviously how to make improvement where you think there are lapses and room for growth and for development. So this woman today got relieved of her job. And I said to myself, there's always something to learn, you know. Maybe it's not the job for her, maybe it's happening for a reason, but there's always something to learn from every adversity. So today I want to focus this conversation on those things we do, not necessarily meaning to, you know, without sometimes knowing, that portray us as aggressive women, that make us come across as forceful, confrontational, and really, really oppositional. I know this is not what you want to be. I'm assuming this is not who you want to be. But for some reason, you tend to run into problems with people, especially conflicts with people, you know, when you don't mean to. And then it comes back to ruin our relationships with others, because believe it or not, we need people and we need to have good relationship with people. We need to be amicable, you know, we need to be agreeable, we need to engage and sustain these relationships, because we can't live life on our own. So I have made a few notes. Why do we come across as masculine? What are those things that give off that energy, that masculine energy, as against feminine energy? So my first point here is that you wear the pants. You wear the pants. I said that again for emphasis. So if you're a woman and for whatever reason you are laden, or you put yourself in a position of power, you put yourself in a position where you wear the pants, you make the decisions at home, you know, you are like the boss lady. You are financially responsible for the whole housekeeping. You pay all the bills. You pay the school fees for the children. You work 1, 2, 3 jobs. Some women do that. You know, for whatever reason, I've talked a lot about this. You know my position already. But if you're new to my channel, if you're seeing this video for the first time on this channel, I believe that women should compliment their men. I am a traditional woman. I believe a woman can go ahead and do whatever she wants to do, but mainly for fun. because she has been to school, she enjoys what she's doing, she enjoys reaching out and helping others, but not because that woman has the sole responsibility to cater for the house, to care for everyone, including her husband. What happens, whether you know it or not, is because you are always on the go, you always use a lot of masculine energy to work hard, to bring in all this money. Before you know it, you come across as really masculine, really intimidating to others, including women and even sometimes men. Because you're wearing the pants, you're playing the role of a man, and it requires a lot of masculine energy to go out there and hunt for food, to go out there and do all those jobs. So if you're not careful, you can no longer have a conversation with a normal baseline in your tone. You will come across as aggressive. You will come across as controlling. You will give orders. You will give instructions. You hardly go into negotiation or conversation. You just want to boss people around. It's not because you want to, remember, but for some reason you have a lot of testosterone. You're using up a lot of energy. The same applies to women who have very little support at home. If you're that woman who goes to work, comes back, cooks, caters for the children, all these activities you want to do everything by yourself for whatever reason. Some people are not blessed with a partner, who can support. Some other people have lost their partners. Some are foreigners wherever they are. So there's limited family support, And before you know it, you do all these things on your own. And some are single parents. I should have mentioned that as well. So when you use up a lot of masculine energy, when you work really hard to make all these things happen, you will give off a lot of masculine energy. So you need to pay attention. That's priority on my list. So the next thing that makes you come across as masculine is when you cater for everyone. Again, very similar to the first point. You are always the one to give out. You're always the one to go out of your way, whether you're doing it genuinely because that's your nature, or you just like pleasing people. You can't say no. You don't know when to draw the line. You lack boundary. What happens is, again, you are labored. You're laden. We are not created to sustain that kind of burden for a long time. Life is made in such a way that occasionally you will raise your feet. Occasionally someone will cook food for you. Occasionally someone will wrap a present. Whatever it is. Uche, this is for you. Say thank you. You receive it. Especially as a woman, we are created to receive. If you look at the anatomy of a woman, a man goes in there and deposits something, and then it begins to grow. You give a woman money for shopping, for upkeep. She goes to the shop, buys something, comes back to the house, and cooks you a meal. So women are created to receive. We are created to be loved. We are created to be supported. That's not to say you live your life depending on others. But equally, you don't want to live your life catering for Tom, Dick, and Harry. It will wear you out as a woman. And before you know it, you will begin to give out a lot of masculine energy. And that will also affect your relationship with others. Now, the next thing that makes you come across as masculine is when you have a lot of stress. Personally, myself, when I'm stressed out, my shoulders ache. I feel my teeth coming together. It's almost like I need to manually release that tension. Again, your sleep will be affected. My one is also affected when I'm deprived of that, moment of relaxation and rest. So stress is something that is very, very important to be mindful of. It's something that you can, tell, depending on what your lifestyle, you should be able to know when you're stressed out. So again, it goes back to just taking a break and listening to yourself. How am I doing? How am I coming across? How am I addressing, the slightest issue in my life? How do I talk to people around me? most of the times when we are stressed out, we lose touch of reality. We tend to become very emotional. We are less logical and rational because we are not happy. We are not ourselves when we're stressed out. It's just like someone that is very hungry. When you're very hungry, when you're starving, you're not yourself. You are likely going to make the wrong decision. So when you work yourself out, you feel exhausted, you're stressed out. That's not the best time to go into negotiation. That's usually not when I want to take a decision, for example, because I'm likely going to get it wrong. So it's important that we pay attention. What is that time of the month? For some of you women who understand what I'm talking about, where are you with your circle? Where are you with your finances? Where are you with your relationships? Do you have a pain, that you're dealing with? Have you spoken to a relative that has made you upset? Are you happy in your relationship? So these are things you need to pay attention to before you go out there and relate to people. Know when you're stressed out. And I will recommend you take a break when you do. So the next one, another point that makes us, in my opinion, come out as really masculine is when we are always defensive. I used to be like this. I used to make these mistakes without knowing. I used to think that when someone asks me a question, or points out something wrong in what I have done, I have to immediately give an explanation. I think partly it goes back to my training. I always want to provide an explanation. I always want to provide a justification for something, not until I began to understand the effect of that kind of behavior. So when someone gives you a feedback, especially a constructive feedback, sometimes it's okay just to listen. Just absorb that feedback. And if you don't know what to say thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it. I didn't actually process it that way. You don't need to tell them it wasn't your fault. You don't need to tell them you thought about it already, but it was not practical. You don't need to make any justification. Don't tell stories. Just forget about it. Anyone can make mistake, including yourself. So when you are agreeable, when you recognize that you've got it wrong and forget about being defensive, just say sorry. You make people weak. Even if someone is coming to you with a weapon, they are coming to have a fight, they were looking for that opportunity and for whatever reason they felt they had found it. That little mistake you made, suddenly they want to weaponize it and use it against you. And then they approach you, but suddenly you are not ready to engage in a fight. You apologize. Oh my God, I actually didn't realize it was this way. I am sorry. It was an error. It was an oversight. Even the devil will back out or back off at this stage. So try not to always be defensive. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Own up to your errors and apologize. That's all it takes. Case closed. Let that person without a sin or who has never made a mistake, first cast the first stone, if that makes sense. So do not be defensive. Now, the next one is very closely linked to not always being defensive. Some of us go about our lives as defense attorneys. Whether they have legal background or not, they are justice warriors. They just want the least opportunity to spot an injustice. Not saying you should watch someone get injured or become negligent when there is a vulnerable person out there, But you don't have to be directly involved, depending on where you live and depending on the circumstances. You can wait for the heat to go down and wait for tension to calm down before you proffer an opinion or an advice. Again, depending on the circumstances. Sometimes it might just be better to pick up the phone and call the police. Again, depending on your environment and the society where you are. But don't always jump into a fight. Don't always look out for, and this can be anything. Some people will enter the store to buy a product. They look at that product, they notice that the labeling on that product has changed. That's a problem for them. Before you know it, they jump on their phone. They're going live on Instagram. There is an injustice. Before you know it, you turn yourself into a justice warrior. You shouldn't be doing that as a lady, as a woman, unless it is extremely necessary to save someone's life, especially a vulnerable person. I would call the police if, for example, I see an elderly or a child in danger, or someone is trying to, that way it becomes really inevitable that there's no way you can, watch such a thing happen and turn your face the other way around. But some people get into a fight for the least provocation. Sometimes it's not worth it, Sometimes it is just not worth it. Let it go and move on. The next thing, obviously, I don't even know why I have this on my list. When you dress like a man, what do you expect? So if you take your time, pamper yourself, do your makeup, dress feminine, automatically you act feminine. You are more confident in your presentation and the way you engage in conversation with people. Your body language shows that you're a lady, you're a woman. But when you wake up in the morning, for example, and you're a lady, you want to be feminine, but you prefer to wear your jean and your t-shirt with your face cap, just looking at yourself in the mirror, you are already masculine. It doesn't matter how much makeup you have on your face. It doesn't matter how you wiggle your waist. Your first impression to anyone around you shows that you are a strong woman. And strength is something you don't want to lead with as a lady, as a feminine woman. Another thing that makes us look masculine and exude masculine energy as women, especially women who want to be feminine, is when we hang on to lots of baggages. Ladies, especially women of a particular age, as we get older in life, we make a lot of mistakes, but that's equally how we grow. We learn from those mistakes, we improve on those mistakes, and we aim to become better. So sometimes we have scars, sometimes we have injuries, sometimes we have unresolved baggages, trauma from the past. But instead of letting go, instead of going for example, therapy, and talking about those things, or just telling ourselves, you know what, these were mistakes that I made in order to become who I am today, therefore I have to let them go. What do? We hang them behind our shoulders. We drag them on. We let those baggages hinder our today, the decisions we make today, the way we relate to people, and the way we come across. So we are angry, we're resentful, we're irritable, we're very dismissive of others. Do you know what I've been through in life? Have you any idea what I've suffered? I have done XYZ on my own. Can I tell you the story of my life? I have been a fighter all my life. I have done XYZ all my life. I have dealt with this kind of man, with that kind of woman. I have seen toxic relationships. I have been there, done that. It is not a badge of honor, ladies. Having all those feathers, all those negative achievements, all those traumas, you think you're going to weaponize them. You think you're going to brandish them at every opportunity. And then people will suddenly respect you. No, people will back off. Because everyone wants to be happy in a relationship. You're just telling them you have no space. You have no room. You haven't healed. You have lots of problems. And before you know it, you come across as unrelatable. as really, really toxic and masculine, and people will have problems dealing with you. Again, this is something very sensitive, but we have to talk about it. Reflect and see what you carry with yourself. Those past hurts, those past mistakes, those scars, let's begin to get rid of them. Make them your past. They are not your present. They should only be here for reference. When you're by yourself and you're watching yourself and you're praising yourself and you're, reviewing things. What have I done so far? I used to be this person, but I'm no longer this person. Thank God for these experiences. They have made me who I am today. Yeah? So that's something to pay attention to. Again, my next point is negative emotions. I think it's very similar to what I've talked about, holding on to past hurt. Negative emotions, I've talked about pivoting. When you pivot, you manually switch your mind and what you think about. Even the Bible said, if there's anything beautiful, if there's anything pleasant, if you have money in your account and you think about those savings and they make you happy, by all means think about them. If you have a good partner who makes you dinner every Sunday, think about it and smile. It doesn't matter the environment. You can be at work and everyone is stressing out, such a difficult day to get by, and suddenly you switch your mind. You go back home. You remember last Sunday when your partner made you that really nice dinner. Just think about it and smile. What have you done? You have manually switched your mind, your thoughts. Remember, the things we think about become the creation we have eventually in our lives. So it's really important we pay attention. Negative thoughts will create negative emotions, and negative emotions will impact on our behavior. And when you're not happy, when you're not thinking happy thoughts, you will not feel happy. It will impact on your actions, your perception, how people perceive you, and also how you relate with those people around you. So whichever way you look at it, you are going to lose. Now, I have fear and paranoia on my list. Fear is actually a negative emotion. Fear will limit you. I've talked about how long it took me to take certain decisions, even to sit here today and be talking to you on this platform. If I had listened to the tiny thoughts in my mind that told me it was never going to be possible, guys, I won't be here. So fear will paralyze you. Fear will disinhibit you. Fear will make you vulnerable. Every opinion will matter when you're scared, when you're paranoid. Go out there and fail. Try and make mistakes. Let go. Be a child. Be a child. Yes, there are obstacles. But who says you're not going to power through? Try and fail and learn. Remember, we make mistakes so we can get better. So fear will limit you. Fear will make you guarded. And when you're guarded, you become awkward. It becomes really hard to get to know people. It's really hard to allow people into your lives, to form friendships and relationships. So it's something else we need to focus on. Fear is really, really crippling. So finally, I have overcritical of self. This is again something that, whether you believe it or not, whether you know it or not, makes you come across as masculine. When you are so hyper-conscious, hyper-vigilant and hypercritical of your mistakes, yourself, your performance, you want perfection, you want to come across as impeccable, you have an image in your head and you think, what, I just have to get it right. You will end up putting a lot of pressure on yourself. You would not flow. Quite similar to fear. You won't be a child. You won't learn and, grow. So it's really important. When we make mistakes, let us understand that is the whole process. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. So let's create room for errors. Let's create room for mistakes. Let's create room for vulnerability. It's okay to raise your hand and say, sorry, can you show me how to do this? This is something else that is very feminine. So if you don't come across as all-knowing, you don't come across as arrogant, you don't put pressure on yourself because you want to impress, you come across as relatable, you know. Humility is something that is very attractive because you come across as harmless. I usually will be the first to put myself out there and say, I don't know how to do this. I'm really struggling. You know, can you please help me? I've spoken to 1 or 2 people behind the scene concerning some of the struggles I have faced with this channel. I said to them, I really love what you're doing. I'm struggling. Can you help me? So do not put a lot of pressure on yourself. It will increase your stress level, and it will make you come across as arrogant. So own it. Say, I am weak here. I'm struggling. Can you help me? So I hope you have taken out something from this conversation. These are some of the things I think, in my opinion, that make women come across as, you know, masculine. And I believe that's not what you want to do to yourself. Once again, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, thank you for all the support. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Until then, stay blessed. Bye.